Good morning, everyone, and it's Friday. The sun's finally out here in Miami. Welcome to another edition of Mamas in Miami, where together we are navigating parenthood with unwavering solidarity and fierce, fierce love. As you can see, I am coming to you live from my car today because I had to drop off my kids at basketball clinic, and I just wasn't going to make it home on time. I did warn you all in our very first phone call with Lizzie that I would be taking some phone calls in the car, and here we are. At the end of the day, I am a mama first. At this time, we're going to be inviting Andrea Mole back to our conversation. If you were with us on Wednesday, you may have heard that she was talking to us about our IVF, and today we're going to continue her journey with her here with you all as she discusses what happens after her eggs were fertilized and extracted and the IVF component of it. So I see that she just signed on. I'm going to invite her in and we'll carry on. Good
Hi,
morning. I
good morning.
told
How
you.
are you?
Good. How are you? I brought everything
Good.
with me in the car today to be able to call you from the parking lot of summer camp.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm sorry, clinic. I don't know if you heard. My kids say that they're too old for summer camp. So I just changed the name and I told them it's a basketball clinic and it's a volleyball clinic. And apparently
That makes
that's
them
okay
feel
for,
better.
yeah, for a 10 and a 12-year-old.
That's awesome. Well, how are you?
I'm good. I know that you have a crazy busy schedule to accommodate you. Let's jump right in because, as you know, 30 minutes fly.
Yeah.
If you want to just recap real quickly where we left off on Wednesday so we can continue your journey step by step.
Um, so on Wednesday, we spoke about a little bit about my background that my wife and I have been together for 15 years, married 5. We had our beautiful son through reciprocal IVF. And I shared a little bit, well, a lot of the details on how to choose a sperm donor and that whole process. And then how we both did our egg extractions together, our egg retrievals together to fertilize our little embryos, and yeah, we can go from there.
Okay, fantastic. And just so let's also tell everybody that you ended up choosing a sperm donor from a cryobank in California.
Yes.
It was shipped to you. You live in Tampa full
Y-
time. It
Yes, Tampa full
took
time. Once we were ready for the egg retrieval, I like processed everything to have the sperm shipped, so it would be there a few days before, so that they can go ahead and fertilize eggs.
perfect. And it took a total, well, you purchased 4 vials and it did take you guys 2 vials.
It only took 2, one per egg retrieval, so one for me and one for my wife.
Andrea, something I was meaning to ask you in our conversation the other day. What happens with the other 2 vials? Can you kind of return them, or you just what happens to the other two?
You have that choice. You can return them to the bank, and they give you, I believe, like a percentage back, or you can discard them. So it's up to you. Or you can donate them. You have really all the options.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Somebody saying you're the best mom ever in
Oh,
your comments.
Tyler, I miss you. She
So
knows how awkward I feel on camera,
you're
so don't
doing
mind
an
me.
amazing job. For those of you that don't know, at one point she was just going to shoot the camera up in the sky and not show her face.
I know. It's fine.
Okay, so uh, you extracted eggs. Lisette, your wife, extracted eggs.
Uh-huh.
You used 2 vials to fertilize. You guys drove each other to the extraction. You went one day, she went the other
Yeah.
day. You guys drove each other. Was it a painful process, by the way?
Um, It's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. You feel bloated, cramping, and pain the next day, but it truly after 24 hours you're fine. It's kind of like doing any other procedure that you're under like a mild anesthesia. You're a little off the first day, but then the next day you're good to go.
An outpatient procedure. Do you
Hmm.
have to take anything prior to the extraction?
Uh, Aside from all the meds to produce the eggs, no. So
No, is there a
it,
specific diet?
I mean, it's always recommended, right? So, like anything, they recommend like a high fat, low carb diet. You know, the healthier you are, the more active, the better chances you have at stimulating more eggs. I know like acupuncture was recommended, so I went ahead and I did that the whole process. Before, there's things like taking Brazilian nuts and like cranberry juice, like all these like myths to kind of help you produce a little more estrogen. So I did all of it. Everything that was recommended, I did. But pretty much what you do is you take medications to stimulate egg production in your ovaries so that you can produce as many as you can. So you have to do like you do injections every single day, twice a day for about a week or 2 weeks prior to the extraction.
Ooh, are they in the butt or in the stomach?
These are in the stomach.
Oh,
The butt comes after the baby's there, or when you're getting ready to transfer the baby.
oh wow, there's more. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk the actual process of the in vitro. At this point you mentioned that you had done the genetic testing on your
Hmm.
embryo.
Yes.
Is this embryo at any point frozen?
Yeah, yeah. So, because
Yes.
you choose to do the genetic testing, they have to freeze the embryos. The only way to do a fresh transfer where they don't freeze that embryo is that you don't get that done. But we chose to, so they all get frozen to do the genetic testing.
And you only implant one.
You only implant one. So once they all fertilize, they get graded A, B, C, D, depending on how strong they are, how quickly they fertilize, and so forth. And so they implant the strongest embryo. Or some people choose the sex, so then they'll implant the strongest of that sex. But we just wanted them to choose the strongest overall, and that's the one they implanted
And
after we had done the genetic testing.
okay, and then you knew that you were implanting the embryo that was fertilized, that belonged, the egg belonged to Lisette, because you said there was it, for legal purposes.
Yeah, originally we didn't want to know which one was implanted just because, everyone gets curious asking whose egg is it, whose egg is it, and at the end of the day, we really don't care, like I said. So, it's nice to not know, but for legality purposes, it's just easier for them to know and make sure that everything's done correctly. We sign the right paperwork. So we chose to do her embryo first because I wanted to have, a little piece of her with me, and start our family that way.
So implantation day comes, you wake up and you go to the clinic. Are you asleep during the procedure? Are you awake? Is Lisette with you?
Um, so you're awake. Again, for the procedure, you do a bunch of injections leading up to the transfer. They check, what they do is that they monitor your uterine lining for 2 weeks prior to make sure it's fluffy and thick to stick. And then you do like progesterone injections to help with that process. And then the night before, you do a trigger shot, which is to get your body ready for that. And the day of, I did acupuncture because it says that it helps. So I did acupuncture before, and Lisette and I both went to the clinic in the afternoon. You go into like a small little OR, you're awake the whole time. And what they do is that they pretty much just inseminate the embryo vaginally into your uterus. But you're watching the whole time while they do it through like a little sonogram, a screen. You can see them insert the tube, you see it go into your uterus, and you see when they kind of like extract it.
And that whole process took how long?
It was quick.
Was it,
Like, I mean, we were in there maybe 30 minutes, if that.
did they ask you to put your legs up or hang upside down
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that point?
It's
They
like
did?
getting a pap smear. You're getting a pap smear, you're in that exact position, and then that's how they move forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
At
So
the,
it's invasive, right? But you're so excited in the moment that you're not thinking of any of that. And you have to do that so many times leading up to the um
oh,
the transfer that like you're constantly getting checked up to that point. You go in every 2 to 3 days to check, your levels, to check your uterine lining. So truthfully, by the time you get to that, it's nothing.
yeah, that's right. You had told me that they had found a polyp leading up to your insemination, and that just threw you off another month.
That threw us off like two months. I was supposed to get it done in February, but then they found that. And you know, when you're doing IVF, they want to make sure that your uterus looks perfect. They don't want to risk something happening and then the embryo not sticking. So then they chose to do a hysteroscopy, which is removing that polyp. And then once, you know, my menstrual cycle came on the month after that and my body rested a little bit, we started the process again for the transfer, which is again injections. That's when the butt injections start.
Injections. Okay, and let's talk finances right now. You had mentioned that at the time when you purchased your sperm donation, it was during COVID and it was around $1,000 a vial.
Mm-hmm.
Lump sum payment. So you're about $4,000 in with your 4 vials. Then you had to pay for the shipping for it to arrive to the clinic. At this point,
Mm-hmm.
has the clinic charged you for anything for your reciprocal IVF?
Oh, I mean, you're charged every time you go in. You know, your insurance only covers your ultrasounds and things like that, like your blood work, your ultrasounds, because that can get billed through your insurance, through Quest, LabCorp. So that gets covered. What doesn't get covered is the actual transfer, and that's if I'm not mistaken, it was 2,500 for the transfer. So you pay that once, and then that covers everything included for the transfer, which is checking your uterine lining, going in that day for the procedure, the anesthesia. Um, and what's not included is medication. Medication's totally separate.
Patients,
Medication,
especially since you're buying double.
yeah. So medication was about a few $1,000s medication each. So I know each of us, we spent about 11,000 to do our egg retrieval with the medication and everything like that. At the end with IVF, you're looking at a sum. If you have a wonderful insurance that'll cover it, great. But for example, in the state of Florida, IVF is not covered for same-sex couples because it's considered an elective procedure. It's not medically necessary. So here in the state of Florida, we had to pay for everything. And I would say like with transfers, egg retrievals, medications, all those extra bills that you get for the ultrasound, sperm donation, the sperm, it cost about $40,000. So it's not a cheap process. So you have to be ready when you're going to go into this, you know, financially, emotionally, all of it.
And you also run the risk that it doesn't take and those 40,000 are gone and you have to start all over again.
Yeah, so Shady Grove Fertility has a risk program that pretty much what it does is you pay a set price. I believe it's like 25,000. It didn't work for Lisette and I because we did 2 egg retrievals, but if it's for one female, it includes your egg retrieval, it includes your transfer, and what it is like, it's around 25,000. It changes per age. If you're older, it gets more expensive because you're high risk, and that covers pretty much unlimited transfers. And then if it doesn't work, you do get most or all your money back. So that is really beneficial for someone who's maybe a little older, who's been trying to get pregnant for a long time. That's definitely the way to go. For Lisette and I, again, we didn't know our fertility status before we started this. Once you start, they check you for everything. Um, but for us, it just wasn't possible.
Sure. I had a question in mind and I just lost it. By the way, we are on live, so if anybody has a question, we encourage you to send them. This is an interactive program and we're all learning together. So please feel free to send your questions, comments, and we'll read them out loud. It'll come to, oh, that was I remember my question. Okay, you had mentioned same-sex couples do not get covered by insurance for the in vitro process. Do heterosexual couples have the IVF
Yeah,
covered? They do.
because in that case, it's deemed medically necessary. Because for X, Y, and Z, they're not able to get pregnant. So then they need to go through in vitro. However, every state is different and every insurance is different. I know that there's some facilities in Florida, like the University of Miami, that will cover a percentage of IVF, even if you are a same-sex couple. So it truly depends where you are, what insurance you have. But most states, especially a Republican state like Florida, it's deemed not medically necessary. So it's not covered.
I'm sure that that's frustrating
Yeah.
for many.
Hopefully that'll change.
Yeah. Okay. We implant, we go home, and we wait.
Hmm. We wait 2 weeks.
Then what happens?
It's that long 2 week wait everyone talks about with IVF. You have to wait 2 weeks to go get blood work and check your HCG levels, which is what tells you if you're pregnant. We chose to test at home with pregnancy tests, which I know is completely advised not to do because it gets your hopes up and nothing's accurate. You can go get your blood work done and your levels be elevated and it can be a chemical pregnancy. Feeling, and 4 days after I transferred, we did a pregnancy test at home and it already had like a faint line. So we did it every day until we went in
Of
and I
course.
had positive tests. So we were hopeful. We were very hopeful.
That's great.
Um, yeah. And when I went in, I had my blood work, my levels were elevated. You go back in 48 hours after to make sure that they keep rising, and it kept rising. And then after that, you go in about a week later. It might be a little more to do an ultrasound and make sure that there's actually a little sac with the embryo inside.
Fantastic. So at that point, you're pregnant.
At that point, you're pregnant. Yeah.
That's amazing. And did you have an easy pregnancy?
Um, Honestly, I did. I had the beginning, I was very nauseous, didn't really have an appetite. But you know, it wasn't so bad. I had something called cholestasis, which is a whole nother thing. It's kind of like a gallbladder disease that it causes you to have to do your induce your pregnancy like at 36 weeks because it increases risk of stillbirth. Completely not related to IVF or anything, just a condition they found. So that's why I had Oliver at 36 weeks. But aside from that, my pregnancy was pretty great. I miss it.
I saw you pregnant. You were the I did not look that cute pregnant.
Oh, thank you. It's a very beautiful time.
Uh, you had mentioned that you intend to give Oliver a sibling one day. It's going to wait a little bit.
Oh,
I'm
sorry, I lost you.
sorry.
No, I lost you for a sec. But yes, we would love to give Oliver a sibling. I have two sisters. I keep losing
Oh,
you.
you're good. I heard you say
Okay.
that you had two sisters and that you would love to give Oliver a sibling.
Yes, I feel like that connection is really important. There's really no love like it. And I want him to have that.
Sure.
So we have a bunch of embryos waiting, so we want to try again and see if we give him a brother or sister.
Amazing. Well, we wish you well in that endeavor. And
Thank
if
you.
anybody is ever wanting to investigate RIVF and see if it's a fit for them and their family, where can they go and find more support and research? Because you had mentioned it's not really something that's really spoken of.
No. Honestly, use social media. We live in a day that you find everything through there. And something as simple as looking up that hashtag, which is what I did. I found a bunch of families that share their story and bring like awareness to it. And I learned through them. And then once I reached out to my fertility clinic, I asked them about it and they explained the whole process. You just have to use the sources you have. The internet is great and you will find so many articles on it, so many stories online. And couples are very open to discussing it with you and sharing it with you. So just, you have to be open to that.
Well, we're certainly really grateful that you and Lisette were willing to share your story with us because I know that you, for example, were terrified to come out on a live screen and show your face, but we really do appreciate it because we're hoping to break down taboos and walls on this program and educate others. There's so many things that people don't discuss, this RIVF being one of them. I had heard of the process, but I didn't even know it had a name, to be honest.
Yeah, it's IVF. It's just reciprocal.
Yeah.
You get to carry each other's embryos, which is really beautiful. It makes the process. I don't know. It just makes it better.
So you had mentioned that there's embryos being frozen for future use. Is there a storage cost right now that you're paying monthly?
Yes, we pay
Yes.
$65 monthly for each set of eggs, so over a hundred
What is
dollars a
that?
month.
Wow.
And we also
Unbelievable.
pay for the sperm storage, which is an annual fee of almost $300.
Okay. And what should you consider, or one who is preparing for this endeavor, what should they consider when they're choosing their IVF clinic?
Um,
Is
honestly,
being
that they're
close to it something that's super important?
that's huge because you have to go in so often, and when you work you have to squeeze those appointments in, so you need somewhere that's local. So definitely close. I know a lot of couples go to New York because there's a fertility clinic that's much more affordable, and honestly, if that works for you and you work from home and you're able to do it, I think it's a wonderful option. I think it's called CNY Fertility Clinic. Great. But for us, that wasn't possible with our work schedules, so we did it closer. So that's definitely something to consider.
Of course, of course. In terms of emotional support, what would you tell a family whose family members are struggling to jump on board with this process or having a hard time wrapping their heads around it? How would you offer support to that family?
Um, who's having trouble with it, the couple or the
The
family?
family, the couple's family.
Um, I just, sometimes that question surprises me because I think it's shocking how families are still struggling with this. We all have the right to have a family and go through this process with the person that we love. So I think that it's our family's job to put their comments aside and just be supportive. This is such an emotional and stressful process on the couple, on your body physically, emotionally. And I think the least thing that we need is to kind of have to deal with everyone else's reactions. And I know that sounds a little selfish, but it's the truth. I think now, if I had a family member going through it, it's not about me, it's about them. And everyone just wants to feel loved and supported because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is bring life into the world and bring a little new family member, you know? So I think just be supportive, ask questions, be involved, show that you have interest, show that you're excited, because at the end of the day, like that's what matters, that the couple feels good, feels calm. Yeah, and just show that you're excited and try to offer like help, and if you don't know about it and you don't agree with it or you have questions about it, educate yourself. That's kind of why I did this, because I truly believe that exposure is what's going to change things. You have to talk about it. If you don't know about it, I'll teach you. So just be there for the couple. When you see same-sex couples, I say this all the time. Lisette and I got married, and the next question we used to get was, when are you going to have kids? And that made us so happy because that's what every couple gets, right?
All the
So the
time.
fact that we were asked that, we were like, okay, like things are changing.
Right.
And we were so happy to inform everyone. Lisette's grand
Oh, I lost you.
and they learned. So I think like it's just a
That's
beautiful thing when family
amazing.
asks you about it, and they're not surprised that you want to have kids. Like that makes you feel really good. It makes you feel like things are changing and it's normalizing same-sex families. Like we are also a typical American family. We're a traditional family. Um, so just
Absolutely.
that, just be really supportive and ask questions and make them feel like they're just like you, or any other couple.
Absolutely. Communication is key.
Yeah.
Communication and love.
Yeah.
And how old is Oliver right now?
He's gonna be 5 months next week.
Uy, qué rico.
Yeah.
He's so cute. I can't handle how much hair he has.
I know. I like said it got you on the back like he was bald for a while, but it's growing in now and he looks so cute. Not because he's my son, but he is beautiful. And we are so lucky to have him. We got really lucky with a little angel baby. My sisters always say it. He sleeps, he's noble, he's good.
You're so lucky. I did not have sleepers.
I know the second one's gonna be a terror, but it's fine. I'm ready.
Are you ready for a second one? Are you ready to go?
Honestly, like now that you forget the whole birth process and everything like that, you're like, okay, I'm ready. I want a second one. I just want him to have a sibling so badly. And IVF takes time. So I think once he's a year, and we're just a little more settled, I'm gonna go back to work. Like I think that'll be the moment that we're like, okay, we're ready. But I do. I want him to have a sibling. So
Amazing. One last question for you. Did you took maternity leave to recover also, I assume, from the birth.
Mhm.
Did Lisette get to take maternity leave as well?
She only took about 2 weeks. So, yeah, it's just it wasn't, I was fortunate enough to take maternity leave, but both of us couldn't. So she did take some time, and her schedule, she made it a little more flexible, but she only got 2 weeks. And I've still been in maternity leave. I was supposed to go back to work, but I wasn't ready. And
I
I don't think I am. No one prepares you for this kind of attachment at all. But I know slowly, I'll have to go back little by little. But I just wasn't ready. And no, she only got 2 weeks.
Well, I'm going to tell
Thank you.
you what happened to me. When I had my son, could not, I could not separate myself from him, but I did go back to work and the grandmothers took care of him. That first day of preschool, when I left him at 2 years old and it was only 3 hours, I parked my car in front of the window of the classroom and I sat and I watched him all 3 hours and bawling the whole time. Then came my second child, Adriana, and I dropped her off at that preschool. I'm like, bye, goodbye,
It just
goodbye.
changes.
I
Yeah.
promise it changes. I'm like, I got 3 hours. Let me go to Publix and come right back.
That's what my sisters tell me. It gets better, but this one it's been hard. It's been really hard. I couldn't even like go to the supermarket and come back without crying. So it was tough.
Do you think it's
Um,
the hormones from all the injections from IVF also?
So I think it's just, I mean, at this point, I'm way past the injections of IVF. I think it's just the pregnancy hormones and the fact that maybe I'm still breastfeeding, I don't know. But yeah, maybe because I don't think Lisette felt that way, And I'm like, it has to be that we have such a drastic shift in hormones after postpartum that it
Interesting.
adds to that.
I didn't even think of that. That's super interesting. Well, Andrea, 30 minutes are up.
Oh,
You
okay.
see how fast it goes?
Yes.
I want to thank you once again for sharing your story with us and opening the eyes of others on all things RIVF. We love you guys. We hope you'll come back. Give us
Thank
updates
you.
on Oliver.
Of
Next week,
course.
we're going to be speaking to another family
Oh,
to close out our Pride series here on Mamas in Miami. But for right now, I'm going to extinguish our tribal fire and wish you all a wonderful weekend. Keep
thank
that
you.
coffee strong, your sanity intact, and those hugs really, really tight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.